Hey, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? You're alright, are you okay? What happened? What happened? Oh my goodness. Oh no. Oh, you had a terrible nightmare. I can see that, oh my goodness. You look petrified, oh my goodness. Come here, honey. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. I'm here with you. It's okay. Oh, poor baby. My poor girl. My poor kitty. Okay. Tell me what happened, honey. Mhm. Oh, oh, you poor thing. That sounds awful. Sorry that happened. It's terrible. Oh, come here. It's okay. I'm here with you now. You're gonna be okay. Yeah, you're entirely okay. I'm not gonna hurt you. Nothing here is gonna hurt you. It's over. And you're gonna be okay. My poor love. I'm so sorry. No, night terrors can be absolutely awful. It's okay. Here, let me get you something to hold. Here, I got this for you. Here you go. You can hold on to that. Good kitty. Good kitty. So sorry that happened. Do you want me to stay in here with you tonight? Would you like that? Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. Of course I will. My poor love. Mm. What made you have an awful little dream like that? Are you worried about something? Is something bothering you? Mm-hmm. Are those boys bothering you at school again? Yeah, they are. You don't think that's why? So you have an idea of why you may have had that awful dream? What is it? You can tell me. You can tell me anything. It's okay. You're worried about what? Me leaving you? No, of course I wouldn't. I would never do that. I would never do that. Never ever. It's an awful thing to worry about. I would never leave you. Never. Never abandon you. Come here. It's okay. I'll always be here for you. I promise. I may not be the absolute best at it, but I do my best. I do my best for you. Always. I always want to do my best for you. And I don't want to leave you. You make me far too happy. I love seeing you happy and I hate seeing you like this. I just want you to be able to live happily and live a normal life, you know? I'm sorry if you're worrying about that stuff, but I'll always be here for you. I promise. Whenever you feel that way, just tell me. Just let me know. I'll be here for you. I love you. I love you so much. Come here. I love you. My poor kitty. My poor kitty. Always having me so worried. Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's good to worry sometimes. I always worry about you because I always want you to be happy. That's what a parent does, you know. We always worry, you know. I mean, I've only been doing it for a little while, but you know what I mean. You know, we worry about you. We always worry about our kids. Yeah. Even when I'm not worrying about you, I'm worrying about you. Even when you're right here and I know that you're safe, I'm still worried about you. But especially when you're safe, I want to make sure it stays that way. Especially when you're happy, I want to make sure it stays that way. When you're comfortable, I want to make sure it stays that way. Come here. Oh my goodness. You gave me such a scare with that scream you had. I thought somebody had broken in for a second. That's it. It's okay. Good kitty. You're such a good kitty. It's okay. I'm here for you. I love you. I love you so much. Mwah. 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 I hate to see you so worried, but I'm glad you seem to be calming down a little bit. You want me to crawl into bed with you? And I'll hold you close, keep you safe, okay? Good. That's what I wanted to hear. Do you want anything before I get in? Do you want some milk or a small snack or something else to cuddle up to before we get comfortable? Yeah. I'll get those for you then. I'll get them in just a little bit. Just a couple more hugs. And a couple more kisses. Mmm. Sweetheart. Love you so much. My perfect little kitty. You know, I don't know if you make parenting easy. I don't know if it's you or, well, from what I've seen from other kids, I know it's you. You're such a sweetheart, you know? You're such a sweetheart. Always caring about others. Always having people like me in the back of your mind. People you care about. It's so sweet. It makes me really happy to see. It makes me feel very loved. Oh, hush. It's a compliment. It's a compliment. I love you. And I know you love me too. And that's why loving you is so much easier. And why worrying about you is so much easier. But that's okay. We're all allowed to worry a little bit about the ones that we love. Alright. I'll go get those things for you. And then we'll get comfy in bed, okay? Maybe I'll read you something. That sounds good. Good kitty. I'll be right back, okay? Okay. Just 1 second. 2 seconds. Alright. There we go. Are you comfortable? Good. I think what we'll read here is a little bit of a book that I was read whenever I was going to bed as a kid. It's a book called Heidi. I thought you wouldn't have heard of it. It is a little bit old. I'm not old, but the book is old. Alright. Well, you just lay down there. And I'll just read to you until you fall asleep, and I'll keep reading until I fall asleep. Does that sound good to you? Good. Alright. Let's see here. From the old and pleasantly situated village of Manfound, a footpath winds through green and shady meadows to the foot of the mountains, which on the side look down from their stern and lofty heights upon the valley below. The land grows gradually wilder as the path ascends, and the climber has not gone far before he begins to inhale the fragrance of the short grass and sturdy mountain plants, for the way above is steep and leads directly up to the summits above. On a clear and sunny morning in June, two figures might be seen climbing the narrow mountain path, one a tall, strong-looking girl, the other a child, whom she was leading by the hand, and whose little cheeks were so aglow with heat that the crimson color could be seen even through the dark, sunburnt skin. And this was hardly to be wondered at, for in spite of the hot June sun, the child was clothed as if to keep off the bitterest frost. She did not look more than 5 years old, if as much, but what her natural figure was like, it would have been so hard to say, for she had on apparently two, if not three, dresses, one above the other, and over these a thick red woolen shawl wound round about her, so that the little body presented a shapeless appearance, as, with its small feet shod in thick, nailed mountain shoes, it slowly and laboriously plodded its way up in the heat. The two must have left the valley a good hour's walk behind them when they came to the hamlet known as Dorfi, which is situated halfway up the mountain. Here the wayfarers met with greetings from all sides, some calling to them from windows, some from open doors, some calling outside, for the elder girl was now in her old home. She did not, however, pause in her walk to respond to her friends' welcoming cries and questions, but passed on without stopping for a moment as she reached the last of the scattered houses of the hamlet. Here a voice called to her from the door. "Wait a moment, Deet. If you are going up higher, I will come with you." The girl thus addressed stood still, and the child immediately let go of her hand and seated herself on the ground. "Are you tired, Heidi?" asked her companion. "No, I am hot," answered the child. "We shall soon get to the top now. You must walk bravely on a little longer, and take good long steps, and in another hour we shall be there," said Dee in an encouraging voice. They were now joined by a stout, good-natured looking woman, who walked on ahead with her old acquaintance, the two breaking forth at once into lively conversation about everybody and everything in Dwarfly and its surroundings, while the child wandered on behind them. "And where are you off to with the child?" asked the one who had just joined the party. "I suppose it is the child your sister left." "Yes," answered Deet. "I am taking her up to Uncle, where she must stay." "The child stay up there with Uncle? You must be out of your senses, Deet. How can you think of such a thing? The old man, however, will soon send you and your proposal packing off home again. He cannot very well do that, seeing that he is her grandfather. He must do something for her. I have had the charge of the child until now, and I can tell you, Bobble, I am not going to give up the chance which has just fallen of me of getting a good place for her sake. It is for the grandfather now to do his duty by her." "That would be all very well if you were like other people," asseverated stout Barble warmly. "But you know what he is, and what he can do with a child, especially with one so young. The child cannot possibly live with him. But where are you thinking of going yourself?" "To Frankfurt, where an extra good place awaits me," answered Deet. "The people I am going to were down at the baths last summer, and it was part of my duty to attend upon their rooms. They would have liked them to take me away with them, but I could not leave. Now they are there again, and have repeated their offer, and I intend to go with them. You may make up your mind to that." "I am glad I am not the child," exclaimed Barble, with a gesture of horrified pity. "Not a creature knows anything about the old man up there. He will have nothing to do with anybody, and never sets his foot inside a church from one year's end to another. When he does come down once in a while, everybody clears out of the way of him and his big stick. The mere sight of him, with his bushy gray eyebrows and his immense beard, is alarming enough. He looks like any old heathen or Indian, and few would care to meet him alone." "Well, and what of that?" said Deet, in a defiant voice. "He's the grandfather all the same, and must look after the child. He's not likely to do her any harm, and if he does, he will be answerable for it, not I." "I should very much like to know," continued Barble, in an inquiring tone of voice, "what the old man has on his conscience, that he looks as he does, and lives up there on the mountain like a hermit, hardly ever allowing himself to be seen. All kinds of things are said about him. You, Deet, however, must certainly have learnt a good deal concerning him from your sister, am I not right?" "You are right, I did, but I am not going to repeat what I heard. If it should come to his ears, I should not get in trouble about it." Now Barble had for the long past been seen most anxious to ascertain particulars about Uncle, as she could not understand why he seemed to feel such hatred towards his fellow creatures, and insisted on living all alone, or why people spoke about him half in whispers as if afraid to say anything against him, and yet unwilling to take his part. Moreover, Barbel was in ignorance as to why all the people in Dorfley called him Uncle, for he could not possibly be uncle to everyone living there. As, however, it was the custom, She did not like the rest and called the old man uncle. Bobble had only lived in Dorfli since her marriage, which had taken place not long before. Previous to that, her home had been below in Pratigau, so that she was not well acquainted with all the events that had ever taken place and with all the people who had ever lived in Dorfli and its neighborhood. Deet, on the contrary, had been born in Dorfli and had lived there with her mother until the death of the latter the year before, and had then gone over to the baths at vrchat's and taken service in a large hotel there as chambermaid. On the morning of this day, she had come all the way from Margatz with a child, a friend having given them a lift in a hay cart as far as Mayenveld. Barbel was therefore determined not to lose this good opportunity of satisfying her curiosity. She put her arm through Deed's in a confidential sort of way, and said, I know I can find out the real truth from you, and the meaning of all these tales that are afloat about him. I believe you know the whole story. Now do just tell me what is wrong with the old man, and if it was always shunned as he is now, and was always such a misanthrope. How can I possibly tell you whether he was always the same, seeing I am only 26 and he at least 70 years of age, so you can hardly expect me to know much about his youth. If I was sure, however, that what I tell you would not go the whole round of Pratigau, and I could relate all kinds of things about him. My mother came from Domsrek, and so did he. Nonsense, Deed, what do you mean? Replied Barbel, somewhat offended. Gossip has not reached such a dreadful pitch in Pratigau as all that. I am also quite capable of holding my tongue when it is necessary. Very well, then, I will tell you, but just wait a moment, said Deed in a warning voice, and she looked back to make sure the child was not near enough to hear all she was going to relate, but the child was nowhere to be seen, and must have turned aside from following her companion some time before. Willies were too eagerly occupied with their conversation to notice it. Deet stood still and looked around her in all directions. The footpath wound a little here and there, but could nevertheless be seen along its whole length, nearly to Dorfli. No one, however, was visible upon it at this moment. I see where she is, exclaimed Bobble. Look over there. And she pointed to a spot far away from the footpath. She's climbing up the slope yonder with the goatherd and his goats. I wonder why he's so late today bringing them up. It happens well, however, for us, for he can now see after the child, and you can the better tell me your tale. Oh, as to the looking after, remarked Deet, the boy need not put himself out about that. She is not by any means stupid for her 5 years, and knows how to use her eyes. She notices all that is going on, as I have often had occasion to remark, and this will stand her in good stead some day, for the old man has nothing beyond his 2 goats and his hut. Did he ever have more? Asked Barbel. He? I should think so indeed, replied Deet with animation. He was owner once of one of the largest farms in Domschlag. He was the elder of 2 brothers. The younger was a quiet, orderly man, but nothing would please the other but to play the great gentleman and go driving about the country and mixing with bad company, strangers that nobody knew. He drank and gambled away the whole of his property, and when this became known to his mother and father, they died one shortly after the other of sorrow. The younger brother, who was also reduced to beggary, went off in his anger, no one knew whither, while Uncle himself, having nothing now left to him but his bad name, also disappeared. For some time his whereabouts were unknown, then someone found out that he had gone to Naples as a soldier. After that nothing more was heard of him for 12 or 15 years. At the end of that time he reappeared in Domleschg, bringing with him a young child whom he tried to place with some kind of kinspeople. Every door, however, was shut in his face, and no one wished to have any more to do with him. Embittered by this treatment, he vowed never to set foot in Domleschg again, and he then came to Dorfli, where he continued to live with his little boy. His wife was probably a native of the Grisons, whom he had met down there, and who died soon after their marriage. He could not have been entirely without money, for he apprenticed his son Tobias to a carpenter. He was a steady lad, and kindly received by everyone in Dorfli. The old man was, however, still looked upon with suspicion, and it was even rumored that he had been forced to make his escape from Naples, or might have gone badly with him, for that he had killed a man, not in a fair fight, you understand, but in some brawl. We, however, did not refuse to acknowledge our relationship with him, my great-grandmother on my mother's side having been sister to his grandmother, so we called him Uncle, and as through my father we are also related to nearly every family in Dorfley, he became known all over the place as Uncle, and since he went to live on the mountainside, he has gone everywhere by the name of Almuncle. And what happened to Tobias? Asked Barble, who was listening with deep interest. Wait a moment, I am coming to that, but I cannot tell you everything at once, replied Deed. Tobias was taught his trade in Mells, and when he served his apprenticeship he came back to Dorfley and married my sister Adelaide. They had always been fond of one another, and they got on very well together after they were married. But their happiness did not last long. Her husband met with his death only 2 years after their marriage, a beam falling upon him as he was working and killing him on the spot. They carried him home, and when Adelaide saw the poor disfigured body of her husband, she was so overcome with horror and grief that she fell into a fever from which she never recovered. She had always been rather delicate and subject to curious attacks, during which no one knew whether she was awake or sleeping, and so 2 months after Tobias had been carried to the grave, his wife followed him. Their sad fate was the talk of everybody far and near, and both in private and public the general opinion was expressed that it was a punishment which Uncle had deserved for the godless life he had led. Somewhat so far even as to tell him so to his face. Our minister endeavored to awaken his conscience and exhorted him to repentance, but the old man grew only more wrathful and obdurate, and would not speak to his soul, and everyone did their best to keep out of his way. All at once we heard that he had gone up to live up the Alm, and did not intend ever to come down again, and since then he has led his solitary life on the mountainside at enmity with God and man. Mother and I took Adelaide's little one, then only a year old, into our care. When Mother died last year and I went down to the baths to earn some money, I paid old Ursel, who lives in the village just above, to keep and look after the child. I stayed on at the baths through the winter, for as I sew and knit, I had no difficulty in finding plenty of work, and early in the spring the same family I had waited on before returned from Frankfurt, and again asked me to go down with them. And so we leave the day after tomorrow, and I can assure you it is an excellent place for me. And you're going to give the child over to the old man up there? It surprises me beyond words that you can think of doing such a thing, Deed, said Barble, in a voice full of reproach. What do you mean? Retorted Deed. I have done my duty to buy the child, and what would you have me do with it now? I cannot certainly take a child of 5 years old with me to Frankfurt. But where are you going to yourself, Barble? We are now halfway up the Alm. We have just reached the place I wanted, answered Barble. I had something to say to the goatherd's wife, who does some spinning for me in the winter. So, goodbye, Deet, and good luck to you. Deet shook hands with her friend and remained standing while Barble went towards a small, dark brown hut, which stood a few steps away from the path in a hollow that afforded it some protection from the mountain wind. The hut was situated halfway up the Alm, reckoning from Dorothy, and it was well that it was provided with some shelter, for it was so broken down and dilapidated that even then it must have been some very unsafe as a habitation, for when the stormy south wind came sweeping over the mountain, everything inside it, doors and windows, shook and rattled, and all the rotten old beams creaked and trembled. On such days as this, had the goatherd's dwelling been standing above on the exposed mountainside, it could not have escaped being blown straight down into the valley without a moment's warning. Here lived Peter, the 11-year-old boy who every morning went down to Dorfley to fetch his goats and drive them up onto the mountain, where they were free to browse till evening on the delicious mountain plants.
Then Peter, with his light-footed animals, would go running and leaping down the mountain again till he reached Dorfley, and there he would give a shrill whistle through his fingers, whereupon all the owners of the goats would come out to fetch home the animals that belonged to them. It was generally the small boys and girls who ran in answer to Peter's whistle, for they were none of them afraid of the gentle goats, and this was the only hour of the day, through all the summer months, that Peter had any opportunity of seeing his young friends, since the rest of the time was spent alone with the goats. He had a mother and a blind grandmother at home, it is true, but he was always obliged to start off every day early in the morning, and only got home late in the evening from Dorfley, for he always stayed as long as he could talking and playing with the other children, and so he had just enough time at home, and that was all, to swallow down his bread and milk in the morning, and again in the evening, to get there a similar meal, lie down in bed, and go to sleep.